All right, guys, Nolen and Jason here again with Roofing Webmasters.
Howdy.
Today is roofer marketing and making money in tough times. So roofer marketing, it is because it's on everybody's mind. You and I have talked about this a long time, so it felt like we were going to have
We've been talking about a downturn for 3 years at minimum.
I think the whole world has. It feels like it should have happened.
I should say 4 years because we were talking about it way before pandemic.
It seems
and
like
here we are in 2022.
Yeah,
so
it's because we had the 2008 debacle.
Yeah,
We were supposedly out of that by 2010 or something.
more like 12.
But it didn't feel like it until like 15 or 16.
Yeah.
But the economy's raring, and by 2018, we're like, well, where's the recession? You know?
Yeah, we're going up at some point. Something
and then
can't last forever.
COVID hit, and we all thought that this shit's over.
Yeah.
And instead, and very thankfully and gratefully, we work with roofers and contractors.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, thank God. Because I knew Martin Cummings, by the way, that worked with, I talked to a Martin Cummings guy, I think I told you this. He worked with restaurants and gyms.
Oh my God.
That was the only thing he did. He was obliterated.
Yeah.
But so then here come everybody, and everybody's like silent for it. Just like, anytime something really bad happens. Like I can remember silence in the air in the economy twice in my life. 9/11.
Right.
And that was like deafening the weirdness. You'd walk into the grocery stores and everybody's looking at each other like, oh shit.
Yeah, but the day after 9/11, I went to the grocery store.
Yeah, and everybody's
just
like
driving. You got out of your car, everything, even outdoors. I mean, the freaking animals.
The air
quiet.
felt
everything
weird.
was heavy.
And then 2008 hit, and really for about a year or two, everybody was just kind of like, oh shit, this don't feel this ain't
we're
good.
heading off a cliff.
Yeah, and then this time around, it feels like it should have happened already, like year after year after year.
Yeah, we have literally talked about it.
Yeah,
every year, we have to prepare for what's coming, and then it didn't happen. It's like, wow, I'm
people
surprised.
are talking about like a Kevin O'Leary, the Mr. Wonderful from the Shark Tank, talks about he's saying, I think there actually could be a soft landing, even though we have inflation, all this other stuff. Problem with a roofer, I think, right now is that during 2020, and everybody thought it was going to go to shit, everybody starts remodeling their homes
because they were sitting home and had nothing to do.
So they're remodeling the houses. They're putting on room additions. This affected every single home contractor out there.
Yeah, they went unless you were in a place like New York where they literally said you couldn't do it.
True.
Yeah. And that's not just me making some up. We had clients in New York who said, I'm out of business. The state won't let me work.
Let me come out. But almost everybody.
Everywhere else had actually ended up having a good year. I don't know if you remember this, but for years, I've pushed Nolen to expand beyond roofing and home services, saying we should get into other categories. And he always resisted. And early in the pandemic, I actually ate a little crow and said, I'm really glad that we're in home services.
I like contractors. I like contractors.
It wasn't that I didn't like contractors. I just thought we should expand into other categories, and it turned out that would have just been lost business, and we ended up able to grow and maintain.
I don't know why. I get along with the roofers. I like them. There's some categories I don't like dealing with attorneys and stuff. I mean, there's just certain, and then there's other categories where they can't pay a bill or figure like the business model tends to attract people that aren't stable.
Right.
Like pest control, no offense. But
screw you.
No offense, but yes.
Or there's categories like real estate that got locked down by somebody else.
By API interfaces and software. Yeah. So, but anyway, so they're sitting there, roofers are there, and it begins to boom. And then it booms through 2020, booms through 2021. Now, we're still not in an economy that would be concerning yet or at this point.
Right.
So it appears that we've had a GDP downturn, but everything still appears to be rolling forward on most categories.
Right.
So however, people are beginning not to, a lot of the construction that people did that was extracurricular construction and stuff on their homes seems to be waning off. Now, I got a call from somebody, which most of these podcasts come from a good thing or a problem in a real life situation. So I got a call from a guy, and I find these calls fascinating because of the psyche of the person and where they are. So the guy started his business. Anybody that started a contracting business in 2020 looks brilliant and ballsy and pretty cool. Like they're like, screw it, I'm starting. And so he started in 2020 or 2021. And this year it's waning off for him. And so what's happened, and we've seen this with a few, but essentially, you know, they're not working on the homes quite as much, and there hasn't been, and we've had some droughts and not quite as much storm activity. It'll change. That's it.
You know, we've talked on other editions of the podcast about people who have the biggest storm in 20 years or 30 years rolls through their area, and they have this banner year, and then they make the assumption that that's the new normal, and they get 2 years worth of work out, and then it returns to a baseline.
Yeah, I don't even know. Yeah,
you know, and this is kind of the same thing.
It is, and it's not. I don't think they like, oh, we're going to get a storm every year. I think they think, oh, we're doing 100 roofs. We did 80 roofs last year. Storm hit. We did 400 roofs or 350. And I'm pretty sure we can at least hold 150. So and it's not, you know, and not only that, maybe a lot, if the storm's bad enough, a lot of the roofs are done for a while, unless the storm hits again.
Yeah.
So that happened to a client we had in 2016.
Yeah, that's actually, I know we're thinking about the
in San Antonio, and I think it was 2016, worst hailstorm they'd had in forever maybe, and like over half the roofs gets replaced. And so 2017 still had roofs being replaced. It was so bad. But by 2018, things were not looking so great, and there hadn't been a storm. And so there's actually less roofs than normal to repair.
Yeah.
So it can happen. But when somebody's the lows are higher and the highs are higher when somebody markets properly.
Right.
And so I mean, for me, I try to do these without being cynical, but it's hard to. I've done this for decades and decades, and I want to, in case anybody doesn't know, I'm going to give them a real quick background on me. I started up mowing lawns, painting curbs, got into home security, did 23,000 sales and installs of home security systems. And back in the day, that was huge, but it became glaringly apparent to me that unless I had marketing dialed in perfectly, I didn't make any money.
Right.
So marketing had to be dialed in perfectly. It had to be basically inexpensive, lots of it, lots of leads, and then I had to control overhead to make a profit. That's pretty much it. That's the recipe for success.
Well, which is kind of business 101, but it's amazing how many people don't get it.
No, it's unnerving, and then but the reason it's so hard, I think, is because there's so much propaganda. Hire managers. What would your business do if you died? Well, like, no, duh. Like 99% of businesses would go to business.
If you die, you don't care.
Yeah.
Unless you're trying to leave it to your kids or something.
Well, everybody wants legacy, but your business is going under if you die.
Yeah.
If you're a roofer.
Yeah.
If you go on permanent vacation, your business goes down. And so you hear all this stuff and you start hiring people, you get overhead, and you constantly jack up your profit margin.
Right.
So it is tough, but you got to get leads, you got to get sales, and you got to get overhead low so you make a net profit. And you got to, it takes a long time to figure out that, I got to work my business all the time to keep overhead low, right, so that I can make a net profit. And so, and so that I'm efficient, because even if you work all the time and you hire too many people, you can work all the time, hire too many people, and not be efficient anymore and still eat up all the profit. The trick is just to stay in the weeds and work properly.
Right.
You can always take your money and invest it.
By the way, when he says in the weeds like that, he means in the trenches, not off in the weeds, but down in the weeds.
Selling, talking to clients, dealing with problems,
Yeah. Involved.
Yeah. And then you can make money, and then you have to invest it. If you don't invest it, then
and involved doesn't necessarily mean up on the roof, nailing in shingles yourself. In fact, if you're the owner, you probably shouldn't be doing that that much. You should do it occasionally. So that you still know what's going on,
Respect.
So you keep your hand into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's talking about in the trenches working on the business.
There are very few processes in the business that I do.
Right.
But if something happens bad, I always say, like, hey, what's going on? What happened with this situation? Nolen Walker here for Data Pins. You may not know, but I own a software company, and we have a proprietary software called Data Pins, DATAPINS. You can search it at datapins.com. This is not white labeled. I actually own this piece of software, and I made it for you. It was made for contractors. You can actually take pictures of jobs, up to 6, make a caption about the material, the brand, the situation, the repairs, and post that back to your individual pages on your website, just like that. It's super simple. Anyone could use it. It also texts and emails your clients direct links to your reviews, so it helps reputation and reviews, which helps conversion and map placement. The geo coordinate gets grabbed by Data Pins, and Google can tell where you are. So instead of them just seeing reviews, they see all jobs or even estimates that you do. This vastly outperforms just getting reviews. Helps the map show up, helps organic keywords, and remember those captions that you're putting in there help expand the keywords per page, and it's great regular content. I love it. We made it just for you. It is organic optimization on steroids for both your website, your rankings, and the map placement. Check out Data Pins. I think you'll be happy you did. So guy calls me. I'm going to get to part of the point here. Are we heading into recession? We're technically already in one, by 2 quarters being a downturn. Will it turn into something worse? Nobody knows. Are you a roofer that is experiencing a downturn in 2022 because of waning off of COVID, people working on their homes, or did you have a storm? Did you not have a storm? Did you benefit from a storm or COVID home remodels and have a booming business but didn't market? Because
it was too easy in 2020.
Because it was too easy, because there's a storm, or because COVID got you tons of business. So I wanted to discuss this guy that called. I won't say who he is. He's in a coaching group of guys. A lot of roofers do this. I personally think it's great. I love coaching and I love the sound of this group. But he doesn't market at all, basically. Now he has a basic website and a Google business profile, and essentially, from my perspective, he doesn't market it at all.
He's done square one.
Yeah,
and nothing
he's
after.
done the most basic stuff possible, and his business is waning off. It's currently over halfway through 2022 right now. So
is he located in a highly seasonal area?
I don't think so. I'm thinking of the area. The area has hail sometimes, but not as much as Texas. He was in Ohio.
I'm thinking more winter.
He's in Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's going to dip in fall and winter.
Most of those guys are doing work a little bit. This is it might be, if I recall, the guy I think might have been in Chicagoland.
Okay.
It may not have been, but it was somewhere up in there. But anyway, so he's in, and it's a mega metropolis place, so he could have tons of business, and he's rightfully in calling, but the bigger problem is that he had this extraordinary event. COVID was just extraordinarily profitable for contractors.
Yeah,
it's like a 9/11. These unfortunate things. 9/11, which I guess killed less people than way less people than COVID, but
way less.
Both being horrible tragedies. We benefited greatly in home security from 9/11. So COVID comes, and contractors benefited greatly. In fact, a lot of people just they have made a fortune during this time frame. So
whenever there's a bad event, there is some business somewhere that will benefit.
It's twice now that I benefited, from horrible tragedy. And so I don't take that as I'm not proud of it. It's just that it did happen twice. I don't think luck is what happens when preparedness meets opportunity. In this case, the opportunity was unfortunate, and that came out of it is anyway, so the guys in this group, he's doing everything, and I want to talk about this because this is, to me, is so important to understand. I talk about this a little bit. I really hope people appreciate what I'm telling them, because they don't really realize. I know that 99% of business owners don't realize how vital this methodology is.
Right.
That's why we're going to do the beer goggle one, because the methodology is so important. So this guy has trucks and decals and an office and employees and member of groups and a coach and a salesperson or two and CPA and overhead. All these things.
So from an outsider perspective,
it's a business.
For most people, that's a real business.
It's a real
that's
business.
Legit. Yeah.
There's no marketing.
Yeah.
And it's maddening for me to look at it from my perspective. It's literally just...
Or he thinks his decals on his trucks are marketing. I mean, they are, but...
He's calling us from a referral, which I'm grateful to have. I'm just saddened to see people. I want to educate them. You know, I was like, I want to take people and shake them, because now he very likely become a client, but he's sleeping and thinking about it.
Yeah.
But did he think about the truck or the decals or the business cards or this coaching deal is really expensive and a long time frame commitment?
Really?
Mm-hmm. So did he think about that, or the overhead, or getting the best accountant, or all these other things, all these horrible expenses that are crippling? That's why I was telling a little bit about controlling expenses and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, there's no ability to even earn money. To some degree, the people that do this are just lucky. You know, on the other hand, our economy needs hardworking people, and there's not a lot of them. And so when someone needs hard labor work done, we seem to have a diminishing pool of people to do that. And so if someone's willing to get out there and do it well, then they're busy. But if the economy goes a little off, or they don't have a storm that year, what do they even have? You know,
right.
Except an expense-ridden structure with no ability to get any leads or sales out of it.
And there's a mistake people make where they think you need those things to have a business. And it's like, you don't need wrapped trucks or decal trucks. You don't need new trucks.
You don't need new
trucks. And we've gone over this before, that if you need, I mean, you might need trucks.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily need a brand new Ford.
I carry some of this a little too hard. I'll tell a story here that I hadn't even watched. I was with my Aunt Becky on a working vacation.
Mm-hmm.
We were watching 80s movies with my 13-year-old son. Anyway, so we're watching Uncle Buck.
Okay.
And I do well. I do well enough these days.
Yeah.
But we're talking about having low expenses. And so being 49 years old, having lived through stuff, I haven't gone through anything too hard. I'm not going to compare myself to my grandparents that aren't around anymore, and depression and stuff, you know. Yeah. But I just cars and stuff and overhead just doesn't mean much to me anyway. It doesn't. It's like that's not the place to spend the money. And I have an older car than most of my kids' friends' parents, and they act like they refer to me as now that my son's seen the picture as Uncle Buck showing up. But seriously, if you're a roofer and you show up if anybody knows that movie, Uncle Buck has like this. It's hilarious. It's beater. Like an LTD limited beater Oldsmobile or GM car. Sedan, and when he turns it on or stops it or the car, it backfires and everybody hits the deck, and the kids are like, they're teenagers at that mortified age. They're like, oh my god. Anyway, it's hilarious, but they had like a Uncle Buck. But my point is that if the expenses are already low, you don't have to worry about it.
Right.
I don't think that we can get any lower in expenses hardly. There's some stuff I could do, maybe barely. But I'm always low on expenses, and I think all these guys should be, so they can make it a profit and stay.
Yeah. Everybody should watch it the way you do. I mean, when you go through receipts and bills and everything every month, it's really common for me to get a message from you. What is this?
Well, I don't. I honestly don't go through
what is this and what? But you do it often.
I have
enough.
my flaws, yeah.
But and I'll get a message. What is this? Are we using this? Because we had a shakeup in the company a few years ago, and we discovered some excess expenses we didn't need.
We went through a lot,
and
we need to do it again.
We found a lot of stuff that didn't need to be paid for that we were able to shed.
Yeah.
And everybody should do that at least once a year.
Not that this is relevant, but in this business, there's a lot of shit that I can't pinpoint. This server, that server, registrars. I mean, weird ass software that everybody uses here to track everything. I mean, we've got a lot of tools and things that are odd.
Yeah. That's why you asked me if we're using it.
I can't this is irrelevant, but like I can't track every debit to what stinking Amazon server we're using, you know? And it makes me want to just cancel all the credit cards and then reinitiate. And it's, it's like, oh, we'll find out if we needed that or not. But we have that. But a roofer darn well knows all of their expense structure. They might have a little trouble job costing an individual job or watching out for a pile of shingles to walk out the back door while the subs charge them an extra square. Like that's kind of shit. Like they don't use all the shingles. They throw shingles in the back of their truck and hide them. And then not only do they steal the material, but then they charge. The reason they stole the material is charge for it, to charge the labor for it.
Jeez,
this is bullshit. So
you don't have to deal with stuff like that. You don't have any physical stuff going.
That's why you drive through some neighborhoods, by the way, and you'll see a house built with 10 different types of stone and brick and roofing material.
Really?
Because all that shit was free off a job site.
Because somebody scavenged it from multiple things and gave somebody
stole it. And then on top of that, charge for the installation of it, possibly. Roofers know what the hell I'm talking about.
Wow.
Horse shit, by the way. But they've got to stay on top of little things like that.
Yeah.
But to keep the expenses low. But there's certain things that you don't. My point on all this is that, you need a truck. Could you handle a 10-year-old truck? Probably. No one's going to complain when an old truck pulls up full of shingles, or whatever, or full of workers.
Yeah.
But so you don't have to have all these things, and some of these things are like ass backwards. Nolen Walker here for Roofers Paradise. Thank you for checking out our podcast here for Roofing Webmasters, where we talk about nothing but marketing. But I'd love for you to check out Roofers Paradise, where I personally interview and talk with roofers. We talk about their successes, their failures, their dreams, their goals and ambitions. It's a great podcast where we actually speak to roofers. Love to have you check out Roofers Paradise. You can find us on YouTube by searching Roofers Paradise. Any platform for podcasts, search Roofers Paradise. Be sure to subscribe, or you can actually go to roofersparadise.show. Look forward to having you over at Roofers Paradise. You probably need coaching, and if you can afford it up front, great. But you need leads worse. And then when you find yourself with no leads, the whole damn thing comes down. And if you find yourself with no leads and high expenses, holy crap, when times get tough, you're really screwed.
And you're talking about like the coaching group. Maybe price out and see if there's an individual business coach.
This is a good coaching group. I'm not going to dog those.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're bad or anything, but just expense.
Is it before that? Is it before something else? I don't know. And people will keep these other expenses. And so when we left this conversation, which was great, you very well could become a client.
Is that the call you had yesterday? You told me it was a good call. Okay.
It was a good call.
Yeah.
I like the guy, but he's going to think about it. He's thinking about it. It's nothing to think about. Like, the marketing is the last thing to go down. So the first thing that most roofers want to cancel is the marketing. He doesn't even have marketing, this guy. The last thing that needs to be canceled, and you're going to go out of business if you do this, is the marketing.
Yeah, the marketing is the thing you cancel when you're shutting down.
When you're shutting your business down.
Because then that's the only time you don't need it.
You're done. And in the world of, and this is a different podcast, but in the world of organic, which is the big show, if you want to look up roofer marketing, the big show.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah. Where over 80% of people go to Google to look for services, and while they're over 70% click on a non-paid item, which is your branded company's digital footprint, which is search engine optimization, which makes you show up. That always gets worked on. It's not temporary. It's not up and down. It's not stopped when the economy gets a little rough or there's no storm. It's the only thing keeping the doors open.
Right.
When this stuff, and the lows are higher and the highs are higher, no matter what's happening.
Yeah. I had a conversation with a client that they're nervous. A lot of people are nervous right now.
There's a nervous energies building.
Yeah. And they were talking about scaling back marketing. And I'm like, okay, so I just want to put this in perspective for you. You're talking about scaling back your marketing when you think there's going to be less business.
Right.
So what you're talking about is getting an even smaller piece of a shrinking pie.
Yeah.
If the pie, you can't you can't control the economy. So if that's the pie and it shrinks a bit, you can't stop that. But if you then shrink your piece of the shrinking pie, that's just insane. And
if you know what is going on and you're told that, it's insane.
Yeah. It's literally, well, there's less to go around, so I'm going to take even a smaller share of what there is to go around. No, that's when you have to go for more of it.
It's you don't have to, like, people don't have to pay us more, but you got to stay vigilant.
Yeah.
And there's things that people can do, like get reviews and other stuff. But yeah, I believe, I know because we do this for a living, that someone could grow market share during a horrific economy with roofing. Yeah. Because roofing being a necessary item, there's always going to be a roof going on. And on top of that, insurance companies in many parts of the country pay for the roofs.
Right.
So there's a ability for someone to actually grow and not have a bad time in the roofing business. And so it's the opportunity for the roofer is huge. Missing this is catastrophic. A guy that's new that had a great year that frankly fell ass backwards into a good time.
Yeah.
That's all. So it's no different than somebody buying a piece of real estate, and then we have, inflation makes houses literally double, and then the guy looks like anybody that bought a piece of real estate feels pretty proud of themselves. So then they think they're a genius, and then you don't hear. I mean, not more than 90 days ago, maybe about 4 months ago, there was an endless chatter of people who were so brilliant and proud of themselves in the crypto market and on social media.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
No,
I've been saying that shit's crazy for a long time.
It's not whether it's crazy or not. Yeah. It's just that someone's getting in on something and having an inflated market, and then they think they're brilliant. And it's like, it's just, you've got to stay vigilant and try to market. Like there's not a peep on social media about the brilliance of their crypto market.
Yeah, quite the opposite these days.
Yeah. So, and I'm not saying it won't come back and it may not be the next thing and all that. I'm just saying that it doesn't. Somebody that took advantage and had a great year because of a storm, because of COVID. It's just luck. Yeah. It's just a little bit of luck.
Yeah. So sometimes you have to look at the whole world and see what happened, that luck, where that came from. Yeah. And you have to say, okay, I have to adjust my perception now because that is gone. That external event that gave me all this went away, and now I have to hunker down.
Well, this guy
do this right.
will go out of business if he doesn't understand marketing.
Yeah.
Everybody. He's not gonna. If he doesn't figure out the marketing, he's out of business. I mean, he might be able to hustle around in a truck, but he's not gonna have a good year because, in his words, he's already having a not so good year. Everything else, he's learning stuff. He's doing all this. He's got all these other things, but he doesn't have the one thing. It's always frustrated me too when I talk. Everybody's got their opinion on marketing and other stuff, but when someone's getting coached or stuff like that, it really should be like the number one thing talked about. Yeah. They go over everything in these courses and these coaching groups and mastermind groups, but the number one thing that it should be honed in on is that.
Yeah.
I mean, it just absolutely should be honed in on.
And that really should be the top priority they talk about, and they should say, all you guys, you got to do this first, and then we'll talk about everything else.
I mean, they will go in, by the way, and we'll kind of sum up here, but they'll go into things like structuring and managers and levels and all that's doing. And there's nothing wrong with it if the infrastructure is working right then. And if you can set up infrastructure and come right off of it, if it didn't make you money or if you need to dump it because of something, the stuff that being not marketing stuff, that's okay maybe to try it, but they all want to act like they're going to produce this contractor business that somehow is going to break all the laws of all time for contract. And what I mean is there's nobody in roofing that has ever gone out and done like 100 locations.
Right.
In residential.
We talked about that on another podcast.
It's never even happened. It's not ever happened. And people got in 1, 2, 3, 4 locations and managed them, but really anything beyond that's never happened unless it's like commercial. And so they'll set up these structures, and there's all this fluffy crap about get managers and get sales and proceduralize it so you can be free, you know? And it's like any business owner, and always talk Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, like these guys worked.
They work their asses
They work.
off. Yeah.
And so you're going to work if you're going to make money. You might have some structure. We have people here. We have infrastructure and human resources and expertise. But the business owner is going to work. So they set up all this huge expense structure of this dream to have. And then some of these guys get this down a little bit, but they're all still working all the time. And then if something happens, their expense structure is high and their marketing's not perfect or even existing.
Yeah.
So they've got all these other things they're focusing on, and it's like, to me, it's just completely ass backwards. So if you want to make money in tough times, dial the marketing in, understand what branding is, go to the big show, go to look at some of our other stuff, get your head screwed on straight.
Be ready to work.
Yeah.
There's a weird thing that happened in the past decade about entrepreneurship, about
the whole world not working.
Not having to be the guy doing the labor in the business, just kind of sitting back and sort of pointing and saying, you do this and you do that.
Yeah.
And I actually saw Gary Vee giving a talk once, and
who works his ass off, by the way.
And some young guy stood up and said, well, I want to talk about passive income because I don't want to be sitting in some office working at some job when I could be on a beach letting passive income pay all my bills. And it was like, he had a huge douchebag sign over his head. And Gary Vee was just like, are you being serious right now? Yeah. And then he just blasted him for 10 minutes. Yeah. and that's the problem, is setting up that structure. People think it'll let them have that.
Right.
That they can sit back and do that.
I think I think we may have spoken about this, or I saw it, but Gary was saying there is no such thing as passive income.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. When people talk about it, it's ridiculous. Now, if you own a piece of real estate, you're going to do less work, and the money begins to work for you. And I think all the roofers should attempt to get asset producing income.
Yeah.
Or income, assets that produce income. Like,
my belief is that you don't have passive income until you don't need it.
Yeah.
Passive income, once you have so much money that investments just pay you, and you don't have to do anything before, but that's because you already worked for so long.
Yeah. So the income from a business can be invested into an asset that produces income, and that asset that produces a different types of taxable income, like real estate, rentable income, something like that. And then over time, and that piece is less work.
Yeah. A
little bit. And then it builds wealth due to tax strategy, inflation, rent increases and so on, equity pay down.
But all of that's still a business you have to run.
All that's still a business, and it's actually, I own some stuff. It's actually still a lot of work. There's a lot going on it, but it definitely is a more lucrative thing as it builds. But yeah, it's ridiculous to look at this stuff and consider it. So the same misconceptions about that stuff as the misconceptions people have about marketing, though.
Right. Completely
screwed up, and then people don't understand marketing, so they villainize it. And as they villainize it, they basically tell themselves they can't do it, or that they won't do it, and then they always have this shell of a business of what it could be. Yeah. And then they bump up and down, and in my opinion, they're a contractor or a sub over a company, even if they have a corporation. They don't operate like a company. Yeah. They operate like someone that doesn't know what's going on. Anybody who listens to this stuff this far in is trying to figure it out and getting better at it all the time.
Hopefully,
assuredly. I mean, it's just like someone actually trying to get it. It takes time to hear it in your brain, to where it's like, I became it is anything but marketing and propaganda and outreach, and and that's all the business is.
Yeah.
If they don't have it, the service, I always say the service is a privilege. The sales a privilege. The infrastructure is a privilege. Like, all that stuff is, of course you are good at what you do. Of course you have people to do it, but none of that happens without the lead and the sale.
Right.
Anyway. Nolen Walker here for Roofing Webmasters. I want you to consider becoming one of our clients. We've done this for 12 years, have hundreds of clients. We help everybody with their design, their code, their content, showing up on Google as high as possible. Clients get regular call volume. If you've never experienced what I call the big show, showing up on Google organically, which is where the vast majority of the clicks occur, on your map, your reputation, your reviews, your organic keyword ranking, you owe it to yourself to try us. We even have proprietary software that we own called data pens that lets you post pictures of jobs, unique captions that increase keywords and long tail keywords, your rankings on Google, text and emailing clients about reviews, even posting pins and photos and captions back to Google. All this helps your organic rankings. Data pens is fantastic, and the work we do here at Roofing Webmasters is fantastic. Please give us a call. We'd love to hear from you.
I guess the answer to, success in roofing in hard times is really the same as success in roofing during good times. It's just hard times tend to make you focus on what you actually have to do to get there.
Yeah, the difference is too that had people gotten their marketing right in good times, they would have been phenomenal times, and they can retire off of those times. When the times are bad and it's low, they have a higher low, they don't go out of business, and they still make a little bit of a profit, and it's not a horrific time.
Right.
So, and then when the times are good and they keep their overhead low, then they can retire if they invest some of that money.
Yeah.
So that is the equation. And if they don't get that right, same with me or anybody else, they will run the circle forever until they die.
Right.
And I talk to the older guys too, by the way. I talk to when they're older and they call, it's sad. So I talked to a guy, called me up, and he's not in a place to buy anything, but he had like a 50 or 100 domains. I didn't tell you about this guy, but it was just these are the tragedies, like the death of a salesman tragedy. Like you don't want to do this and get this wrong and work your ass off owning your own business with all the problems and extra headaches that come with it, and then die or get older and not figuring this out.
Yeah.
Because that guy that called me doesn't understand any of it well enough to do anything. Had bought 50 to 100 domains, and in his own words to me, and said, "I know it's dumb not to do anything all these years." And he's describing to me his life regrets in a phone call that was fruitless for me, but I had some compassion towards the guy, so I let him talk and listen to him. But he was telling me his life story of regrets of not marketing. And he had bought domains, but he hadn't ever built a brand or done anything, and he was unable to do stuff now because he was too old and didn't have the energy level to do it.
Yeah. Well, how many times have we had clients that have sold a business, not gotten enough for it to actually retire, and they call us and they're 65 or even 70 years old and they're starting over?
So I heard a statistic on this the other day, and 75% or 77%, by the way, that's how many are sad that they sold their business.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so if somebody sells their business and they don't, because if they didn't make the asset purchases that produce income, like apartment complex, duplex, rental, Airbnb, whatever, they don't have enough money to live on, and expenses continue to go up. And if you don't have that other stuff going that floats with inflation, like rental property floats with inflation, then your money disappears. And could you imagine selling your business in 2019, not having proper infrastructure set up for retirement or investments that cash flowed that floated with the economy, having the money sit in the bank until 2022? Horrific.
Yeah.
Horrific.
By 2022, a lot of it's gone.
Yeah. 50% of it maybe is eaten up in inflation.
Yeah.
So you're sitting there trying to, eat prime, you're down to choice. And
pretty soon on beans.
Yeah, pretty soon on dog food, right? Anyway, but yeah, so I hope.
That was depressing.
Well, the good news is that somebody can market.
It doesn't have to happen.
Somebody can market and be a superstar.
Yeah.
That's the reality. People should be scared and depressed. That's why these guys work. I mean, it's why we all work.
Yeah.
As I was talking to my son was asking this question when we were on this working vacation with my aunt, and my aunt still works. She's 68. She's she's a beast though. She just barrels forward and stuff. But my son was asking a question, and I said, well, I told you, I said, well, we all reached the end of our workable, health span. Like there comes an end to, like you'll still be alive, but you won't be productive anymore.
Right.
And it will happen. And my son's asking, and it's like, as he asks a question, I'm probably too direct with him about things. And I'll say, you'll be able to work for a certain length of time productively. And then you will have an end to that.
Yeah, the years will catch you.
And then you will still be alive for a lot longer. Right? And it's like, and he's like, oh, and I'm like, oh, that's life.
You might have 20 or 30 years, depending.
Yeah.
That you just sort of keep going.
And most people don't figure it out, but since you've got me helping you, son, you're going to figure it out early. I'm going to make damn sure of it. Just don't screw it up, because you only have so much time to get this shit right. And he's like 13, and he's like,
he's 13. He's
screw my life. This sucks. Right.
This dark expanse.
Enjoy your vacation, son. Eat your ahi tuna and shut up.
Good God.
It's not always that morbid with my conversations with the kids, you know.
Yeah,
but I do. My wife will look at me.
Death is coming, boy.
My wife will look at me like, God, good God, you know. Let them enjoy their childhood.
It's the truth.
They can do it, guys.
He's 13. He's not a child anymore.
Here's my sum up for everything. You, by God, can do it.
Yes.
You can get your ass moving. We can help you. We're the ones to call for this. We are the goats and the ones to go to for a roofer for marketing.
Right.
We have all of the stuff that we do for SEO, an agency here. We have a software company, data pens. It is awesome crap. And awesome crap. Awesome stuff. Awesome shit.
We need that on a shirt. Awesome crap.
It is, man. It's the best there is. And then
it's the best crap out there.
I didn't mean it like that. I didn't want to say shit.
Yeah. Awesome stuff.
So I said crap.
Stuff.
And then it sounded worse when I tried to use a nicer word. The analogy was like, off. What I get. All right. Anyway, guys, call us when you're ready. Love to be of service. Get the marketing down. Keep the expenses low. Bad times will be good times.
Right.
Good times will be great times.
Take it easy.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Oh, like and subscribe.